But anyway, after recent events, let me tell you why there's a dang good chance there will never be another John Deere purchased to go on our farm again. Now, all right, it's now Tuesday morning. We got a heavy, hard, one of the hardest rains I've ever seen. Saturday night, got about an inch, so give it a couple days to dry out. Yesterday and this morning has been a repair day. I think we finally got our road track figured out. After I thought I've had it fixed the other day, it just kept on messing up and got worse and worse and worse, and finally tracked it down. And I think the problem, like I said, problem was the controller right there, because I was getting continuity on 3 wires and multiple wiring harnesses that I shouldn't have been. So I think something was shorting out in the controller and causing everything to go haywire. But anyway, we got it replaced. We don't have continuity on those wires now, so hopefully this part is fixed. Also had a problem. I've got a big problem with this unit. Don't know what's going on, but anyway, absolutely ate the doffers up, rounding them off bad, wrapping up some spindles bad. Something is bad out of line, but I can't figure out what it is. Gonna need to get Delta spindle out there. But anyway, got this doffer stack reground. Hopefully it will make it another 100 acres. And then the 4440, the temperature gauge hadn't been working. Tracked it down to, I think it was the gauge, so we got the gauge replaced. Also had an antifreeze leak on the picker, one of the lines we took off this summer to fix the other end. Well, when we took it loose, I guess it broke the O-ring loose on the other end that we weren't fixing, and it started leaking. So anyway, got it fixed. But anyway, after recent events, let me tell you why there's a dang good chance there will never be another John Deere purchased to go on our farm again. Now, as long as we're in the cotton industry, we're kind of stuck with John Deere for cotton pickers because they're the only ones that manufacture them. However, I hear that Case is working on their own round baler design. But if it ever comes out, let me tell you, I will be taking a long, hard look at it. But main reason is parts prices. Now, starting out with something reasonable, this row crop sensor up here for the road track, that right there, that's in the $80 range. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. I'm not going to argue with that too much. Now, getting a little bit more expensive, getting back here to that road track controller, you're looking at $1,100 there. Now, that is basically a computer, and computers aren't cheap. I can understand $1,100. I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about that, even though it is pretty expensive. And TVs are probably a lot more complicated, and you can get them for a fraction of the price of that controller. Now, getting into the realm of the ludicrous, I've already covered this one, but this rear wheel position sensor, $2,355, and all it is a potentiometer under that cap. So you get the potentiometer, you get the cap, you get the hose that the wiring harness goes through, and the wiring harness for the grand total of $2,355. And because that was not my problem, and I unboxed the other one and just hooked it up to the pigtail there to test it, now I can't turn it back, and I'm stuck with $2,355. But that's not the worst thing that I've experienced the last few days. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's why I run old equipment. You know, I can fix it, and parts prices are reasonable, cheap, not like that new fancy equipment. That's why I run old equipment. Now, that 4440 over there, the temperature gauge, want to take a guess at what that costs? $202 for this freaking gauge. And by the time I realized how expensive it was, it's too late. I done ordered it, and I done picked it up. I mean, when I called and ordered it, like, it's a temperature gauge. It ain't gonna cost that much. And got home with the gauge, looked at the receipt, $202. I about had a stroke. If I'd known it's gonna be that, We kept on running it like it was, and then just run a manual gauge this winter when I had time to plumb it up. That's what I would have done. Now, I mean, as y'all can tell, we got multiple different brands of equipment on this farm. We're definitely not married to John Deere, and when we buy equipment, we generally go with the equipment that we feel will do us the best job at the best cost. And that's why we got blue tractors, we got red combine, we got a green sprayer, we got a green picker, and unfortunately we got one green POS tractor out here. But after getting screwed by these parts prices, I'm done with John Deere. There will not be, outside of a cotton picker, potentially way down the road. I'm never going to say never, but there most likely will never be another green piece of equipment on our farm. And something else that's really got my goat, my local dealer. It's a good dealer. I'm not going to complain about the dealer. The people who work there are fantastic. But whoever at the Tennessee Tractor corporate office decided to change your phone system, y'all can suck it. Used to the phone system, you needed parts, you would call the dealer, ask for the parts guy. If he was available, wasn't helping anybody, he'd answer the phone. You tell him what you need, and then he either have it or he wouldn't have it. Well, a few months ago, Tennessee Tractor decided they want to completely change their phone system. You need a part, you call a phone number, you press 1 for parts, and then the phone rings for about 10 seconds. If they're all busy, nobody picks up, you're then forced to leave a voicemail to get them to call you back. Well, it's Tuesday morning. I'm still waiting on a call back from Friday afternoon. When we're broke down and whatever, I'm not going to call and leave a message and just twiddle my thumbs waiting and hoping somebody will actually call me back. When I call, I want to be put on hold, and I don't care how long I wait on hold. I will wait on hold indefinitely until the next parts guy becomes available. That way I know that I'm not waiting on somebody to call me back. I absolutely will not have somebody call me back. I've expressed my disdain for their new phone system multiple times. I know other farmers, customers of theirs have been too. But I'm sure they got good reasons for having changed their phone system, but it absolutely sucks. I don't have to do that with H&R AgriPower. Don't have to do that at all. I call, ask for parts, and I get a parts guy. Don't get asked to get a freaking voicemail and then just hope and pray somebody calls me back. So it's for those reasons. John Deere's corporate policies on their absolutely insane parts prices, even for old equipment, local dealers' insistence on a new phone system that does everything but actually serve the customer. I'm done with John Deere. Now we've taken plenty of screwings from all major brands of equipment on parts prices. CNH, New Holland, Case IH, they'll screw you on parts prices too. I'm sure Fiat does, AGCO, all of them. Every brand we own has got some pretty ridiculous parts prices, but when it comes to actually getting the biggest screwing, how do I keep this politically correct? John Deere has got the biggest equipment for screwing, if you catch my drift there. So anyway, rant over for now anyways. We got 100 acres of cotton to pick, and I want to get it done in 2 days, so let's get after it.
It rained a lot, really heavy, I think over an inch of rain. So everything is still muddy. Yesterday the boys spent all day fixing things, and I did all my errands. So first order of agenda today, move that big, giant tree branch. Are you ready, Mia? You ready to go move the branch with Mommy? All right, this is my helper today, and I hope she doesn't get muddy, but we're gonna try. You also know what builds muscles? Lifting a 40-pound Aussie into the tractor, because these hurt her paws. So I have to lift let her in every time, don't I? Because you're the passenger princess. Yes, you are. Ooh, I'm surprised. I did a good job there. It might have been struggle busting it, but I did it. I didn't need a piece of equipment. All I needed was, my back might be suffering later, but sometimes you just have to prove yourself. And I did it.
All right, we got done with McClary's farm a little while ago, ate lunch. Now we got started on the last farm on this little area, Sharp's Bottom. And I tell you what, out of all the cotton that I've replanted the last few years, this might potentially be the best replanted cotton I've ever had. I mean, she looks fantastic. Now, I was scared to death after that hard pounding rain that, I mean, it would have beaten that cotton, you know, back into the hulls and everything. But I mean, that stuff is pretty dang fluffed out, and I mean, it's picking clean. Now, we did have sun and a stout wind blowing on Sunday to really help fluff that cotton back up, and then we had a nice breeze yesterday along with sun to help fluff that cotton back out, and it did a great job. I mean, we're still here on the inroads, but once we get out in the middle, I mean, it's going to be gangbusters. But yeah, it's been a couple hours since I filmed my previous clip. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm still hot, and I really ain't in the right frame of mind to film right now. There's some things I want to say that I don't need to say, but it just, the last couple of days it just flew all over me. When I saw that ticket yesterday that had the price of the gauge on there, it was all I could do to not make a fool of myself in that store. I mean, I'm usually a pretty calm person, you know, try to keep my wits about me. You know, I try not to fly off the handle, even though I do sometimes. But I about lost my cool yesterday, and that wouldn't have been the right thing to do. For one thing, it wouldn't have accomplished a dang thing. And the other thing is the guys there at the park counter, it ain't their fault. You know, they just work there. You know, they charge the prices that's on the computer. They don't have any control or say so. So for me to take out my frustration and anger on them, you know, perfectly innocent people, I mean, that would have been completely unprofessional of me, and would have been the absolute wrong thing to do. Not only that, you know, it would have hurt me with business in the future also by, being rude and ugly, and you know that just ain't the smart thing to do. But I want to take it out on somebody. I'll tell you that. But unfortunately, the people I need to take it out on are not going to be available for me to let them have it. But I mean, it's painfully obvious, and like I said earlier, this isn't just John Deere. You know, CNH does it, AGCO does it, CAT does it, you know, all the brands do it to a certain degree. It just seems like John Deere's just seems to be the most egregious. They're the leaders in expensive stuff. You know, now they got some good, they've got good equipment. You know, they've got a good company. There's no doubt about that. And I've got no problems with what they charge for new equipment. I mean, it's my choice whether or not to buy new equipment. But I mean, I've got to have some type of equipment, and I've got to be able to keep that equipment running. And to absolutely, rape somebody on parts prices, it don't sit well with me. And like I said, it ain't just John Deere. It's all of them do it. John Deere just seems to be the worst. I mean, it has gotten where, I firmly believe John Deere has forgotten its purpose as a company. Its purpose as a company is to build and support equipment for farmers, stuff that they can use and stuff that they can afford. And they've lost that purpose. They're still building good equipment, but is it affordable? Not for this guy, it ain't. They're more concerned with turning a profit for their stockholders than they are in keeping their customer in business and flourishing. You know, I get it. I mean, you got to report to stockholders and stuff. You're a publicly traded company. I get that. But how's those reports to stockholders going to look when all your customers go out of business because you run them out of business because of your outrageous price gouging? Well, let me tell you, it ain't going to look too good to the stockholders then. And I know there's some people going to comment, oh, well, it's just going to put the little guy out. You know, you'll still have your big mega farms, your corporate farms, and everything else that's going to take over everything. And, you know, they're going to take up all the farmland, and, you know, they'll still keep John Deere in business because they can afford it. I mean, the economics of farming suck. It don't matter if you're big, small, in between. The economics of farming suck. And you think big major companies are going to farm the ground with profit margins as slim and risky as they are? Heck no, they're big companies because they invest in better opportunities. And right now, farming ain't a good opportunity to make a good investment and expect a good return on your investment. So let this be a warning, John Deere. You done lost my future business. And I'll tell you what, you know, Case IH, CNH, if you follow along in John Deere's path and just get to where you're absolutely just pissing all over me, guess what? I'll say screw you too. Heck, I don't know. I just might say screw it to the whole farming thing and let other people deal with it. You know, if you just treat your customer fairly, I mean, there's still profit in it for you as a business. Just leave just a little meat on the bone for us. That's all we ask. We ain't looking to get rich. We just want a chance to actually make some kind of profit. I tell you what, all that work we did with the track hoe on this farm, you know, pushing back those tree lines all the way around this 14-acre farm, probably benefited this farm as much as the farm we were just on. You know, this has always been a really, really productive field, but it's only been just a few acres that's been really, really productive because of the tall tree lines completely surrounding it. And opening this field up, get some more sunlight in this field, I mean, it's made a world of difference. Especially, you know, right here, right around the edges where the trees were kind of leaning over the edge, get all them pushed back. And man, I'm super tickled with how both this farm and the previous one that we did, how it's turned out. That's probably some of the most profitable time I've ever spent on a track hoe. You know, that last farm we were on, last time we had cotton on here, we had our basket picker. So we were making, you know, the regular rectangle modules, and we basically got 2 small modules off that 22 acres. And it wasn't a drought that year. And then this year, off that same acreage, we got 1 full-size big module and then 3/4 of another full-size big module. So in a drought year, just from doing that track hoe work, we greatly improved our yield. You know, both of these farms have got good deep soils, enough to be, I mean, really, really high productive farms, but you know, they just never have been because I had too much sunlight being blocked and just really couldn't utilize all the resources. And now that we've helped correct that, we can really see both these farms, you know, start reaching closer to their full potential. Now, there's still tall tree lines all the way around the fields, but they're not as intercepted as much sun going into the field as what they were before, and it's made a huge difference. Well, I finally got reason to be in a good mood. I mean, this is really surprising how dang good this replanted cotton is. I mean, it's 1,200 pounds pretty much all the way down through here. I mean, some mighty fine cotton. I mean, this would be good, respectable cotton. Dadgummit, the Stairmaster strikes again. Be right back with you. Anyway, as I was saying, this cotton right here would be dang respectable cotton in a normal year, let alone a drought year. I mean, it's exceptional. And normally I would expect it from this type of ground in a drought, except for the fact that this was planted on June 3rd, I think. I've never made June 3rd planted cotton yield like this. And I sure as heck haven't ever picked June 3rd planted cotton yielding this high on October 21st. If I ever would have thought there's a chance I was picking high yielding June 3rd planted cotton, I might be harvesting it in the middle of October or in the middle of November. I've definitely seen a few things this year. For one, a few things that I hope I don't ever see again in my career, namely an 84-day drought, and things I don't think I'll ever see again in my career, namely high yielding June 3rd planted cotton picked on October 18th. I feel pretty confident that second one, I feel pretty confident saying I'll never experience that again in my career. Also, my other reason to be happy, my auto steer has been working flawlessly for the last several hours. And I know back when last time I discussed it, you know, I said I thought I fixed it because it started working right after I unplugged the controller. And what happened, what really threw me for a loop on this auto steer is that when everything was cold, first thing in the morning, everything would test fine. The voltages would test fine, the sensors would test fine, and everything else. And the auto steer would actually work pretty good for 30-45 minutes, and then it would start getting wonky, and then it'd throw code after code all day long. And I could not figure it out to save my life because, you know, it was intermittent. And even when it was messing up, when I would take the time to test it when everything was hot, I was getting readings that wouldn't make any sense. My sensors were showing the values changing, but they were not consistent in their, it was not consistent in the numbers that it was sending back. And I tied it all back to that those sensors, when everything was hot, just were not getting the proper 5-volt voltage. So if you got these pickers and you're trying to test stuff at both sensors, you got orange wires on both your crop sensor and your wheel position sensor. You got orange wires going to the sensor. Both of those wires are the exact same wire. They go to the same pin on the controller, and you're supposed to have 5 volts on that. And I wasn't getting 5 volts on that, and I couldn't figure out why I was getting 5 volts on that. So when I was trying to trace it back to the connection on the controller, maybe to figure out if I had a short or a wire broken or whatever, when I looked at the schematic, I actually looked at it wrong, and the controller's got 3 different plugs on it, and I unplugged the wrong plug, and I was getting continuity on a plug that I shouldn't be getting continuity on when I was trying to locate the actual wire. And it finally took me a little while to realize, hey, I'm testing continuity on the wrong plug, but yet I'm getting continuity on this plug, and I shouldn't be getting continuity on this plug. And that's kind of what got me to figuring out that the controller was the problem, and that it was shorting out somewhere in the controller when everything got good and hot. So it was kind of a lot of trial and error, and actually getting pretty lucky on being able to diagnose it. And even then, I wasn't 100% sure it was the controller, and the last thing I want to do was just put a controller on there and that not be the problem, because that's another $1,100, and I put it on the picker, and it's not the problem. I can't return it. So I went by John Deere, and the service manager, you know, he pulled up the schematic. I showed him exactly what I was seeing, and tried, and the service manager and another guy that's good with electrical stuff, trying to get both of them to find any other reason why I was getting continuity where I shouldn't be getting continuity. And I mean, they agree with me. They said, I mean, they couldn't tell me for certain that it's the controller, but they said, you know, most likely it's the controller. So I put the controller on there. They came out and programmed it with new software and everything last evening, and she's working flawlessly. I just had the best drone session that I've had all season long, because I got proper working auto steer, and I could get some dang good shots. I finally got a reason to smile. You know, it was expensive, but something has finally gone my way in this cotton harvest. So we got about 4 or 5 more acres of this mighty fine cotton, then we'll be moving back to Crockett County, and yields are definitely going to fall off. But I think for the type of ground it's on, there's still going to be some decent yields for the year. They're just not going to be anywhere close to this. they're not going to be anywhere close to breaking even. But the next farm we're going to is definitely not going to be my worst farm of the year. I still got one more farm after that that could give the Clanton farm as you know, a run for its money on being the worst farm this year. All right, we got one full, you know, set of 4 over there, probably around 17, maybe 18 bales. The rest of this farm, we got almost another full one. There's probably solid 16 bales on there. That's off one farm. The farm we just got done, well, when Kelly brings one back, we'll have a full set of 16 to 18 bales. And then we've got another small one to go with this one over here. Probably have about 12 bales or so on there. I'm gonna have to go back and check my records. We may have just picked the most cotton off these 2 farms that we've ever picked in a drought situation. And a big part of it replanted on June 3rd. Man, I knew clearing out those tree lines was gonna make a big difference. I didn't think it was gonna make that big of a difference. So man, mighty impressed with that. So we're about to get this sucker broke down, head on down the road.